Welcome back to the Brewers Lab. Today we're talking about Lorwyn's strongest commanders from top 10, or yeah, it's just a top 10 list. I don't know why I said from top 10. But yeah, today's going to be a top 10 list. I'm your host, Caleb. This is your other host, Devin, and we're going to jump right into it.
Yeah, and what was nice about this set is there wasn't as much legendaries as like previous sets where they have like 40, 50 legendaries. We only had like maybe like under like 20 to 30. I don't know the actual math on it, but it was nice and refreshing to see so that we could specifically focus on commanders that a lot of people like and maybe some hidden gems too.
I agree. And to be honest, I would want this for future sets as well. The legendary creatures that we got were pretty cool, and a lot of them had unique abilities that I like. And to be honest, a lot of the other legendaries we've gotten previously, when there's like 50 plus in a set, you've got a legendary that's a 1/1 that untaps something whenever it enters the battlefield. Like, we don't care about that, right? So the legendary word needs to mean something, and I think this set's a step in the right direction.
Right, like quality over quantity kind of thing. We definitely want more really good legendaries that are good build arounds instead of just like a mass of them and half of them are not even build arounds and they're just throwing it in there.
I agree. Another thing I noticed in this set specifically is there was like less of a power creep push. I mean, there is very powerful commanders, but like they were more unique builds that are broken because of how unique they are. They're not necessarily just like pushed to the absolute limit. I mean, maybe Ashling's probably the exception to
Yeah.
that.
Little spoiler,
And
but yeah.
yeah, I mean, hey, well, no spoilers. We don't know where
Yeah.
Ashling's at this list, but Ashling's kind of just absurd. Anyway, let's get into this before we just talk and ramble on forever. Doran, Besieged by Time, I think is at a comfortable 10. This
Mhm.
is a commander that says each creature spell you cast with toughness greater than its power costs one less to cast. Whenever a creature you control attacks and blocks, it gets plus X until end of turn, where X is the difference between its power and toughness. You actually had a pretty unique take on this, which I completely missed.
Oh yeah, with Rat Colony. I mean, it wasn't my original idea. I've seen some people talk about it. I'm like, okay, let's look at this a little bit further. And obviously, it's the difference between power and toughness. So, Rat Colony is kind of like that wording where it will get more powerful the more Rat Colonies you have on the battlefield. And there's a lot of ways you can kind of break those abilities of having more than one of those cards in your deck too. There's like, I forgot what that one card is called, but it works pretty
It's a
well.
green and black one, right?
Yeah, there's a ton of those effects. I went over that in my video. We have all our lists in our description too, by the way, where you can just check out every kind of card and what we talk about. And we talk about subtly some things and combos that kind of work together with those commanders too.
Exactly. I took a little bit of a different route. I was using cards like Commander All Stars, like Poo Poo UFO. It's just a 2 CMC flying creature artifact that has a 0/4 body. I didn't want to focus on defenders because I think defenders just kind of make you have to jump through a hoop of
Right.
allowing your creatures to attack. So using cards like Poo Poo UFO, you get a 0/4 that gets +4 whenever it attacks. And then the other half of the deck was a lot of cards like Felithar that allow you to deal damage with your butts. So now there's one CMC card because of our commander is hitting someone for 8 in the face. And that's kind of the direction I took.
Well, and honestly, when you put this on the list, I had to like double, triple check to see if that was a real card too, because Poo
It's a real
Poo
card.
UFO, yeah, it's a real
It's a
card.
real
And
card.
I was surprised completely. I didn't really look at Final Fantasy too much. I looked at it enough to understand the cards in there, but I did not know this even existed. But
I
there's
didn't
also,
know this
yeah,
existed until I built the deck.
no, seriously. And there's a lot of other great cards that kind of go along in this deck, like Baldin Century Herdmaster, which it just buffs up all your creatures with huge toughness and then buffs them up even further with Doran. There's also like Walls of Bossing Say, which is probably the only wall I ever put in my actual Doran list too. So that's one really good card, which is just basically just an Avacyn.
Yeah, I like Wall of Balancing Say too, because it's like you're dealing 60 damage to someone's face as
Right.
long as you can deal damage with their butt, like with something like a Felithar,
Yeah.
and you're just able to one-shot people with this silly little defender deck, or not defender deck, but toughness matters deck. I will say, I do kind of feel like Felithar is better in
Yeah.
the 99, or sorry, not. I feel like Doran is better in the 99 of Felithar, but I still think Doran is doing something unique enough to be his own standalone deck, so that's kind of what I enjoy.
Right. And something that we were kind of discussing, or maybe I was thinking about, Something I was thinking about with Doran is it the best commander for that color combination and the strategy it's doing? And we both kind of agreed Felithar is doing it, but better. You're swinging in with your creatures that have huge butts, and they'll deal a lot of damage. But not only that, it also gives you card advantage too, which is a big distinct difference.
Yeah, I agree. Card advantage in the command zone is just always going to be stronger. But Doran and Felithar, you get a cool little cost reducer that's
Yeah.
also like a Craterhoof Behemoth in the deck. So I'm definitely a fan of that.
Right. And so Doran, yeah, it's at number 10. I mean, it probably would have been higher, but there's already better commanders that are doing it in that strategy, like with Felithar. So that's what we had it at this list. But we are going to move up to number 9, and this is going to be Lluwen. And this commander, I wasn't super high on until he was talking to me about it. For two Golgari hybrid mana colors, it's a legendary creature, Elf Druid with a 1/3 body. When it enters, you mill 4 cards, then you may put a creature or land card from among the milled cards on top of your library, and you pay the activated ability to discard a land. Create a 1/1 black and green worm creature token for each land card in your graveyard. And so there's a lot of ways to do this. Obviously, lands is the main theme of this. When I first read this, not gonna lie, I kind of brushed it off thinking you're only making one worm token on the battlefield, but it's by the amount of lands you have in your graveyard, which totally changed my mind about it.
Yeah, it's super fun. I mean, honestly, anytime you have a land strategy like this, the first thing I want to do is get as many lands in the graveyard as possible. Crazy idea, right? But to do this, I was using cards like Lumra and then Aftermath Analyst that return our land cards from our graveyard. Then we're using cards like Zoran Orb to sacrifice our entire board state. Notably, you want to do this in response to the ETB. You want to put Lumra on the stack, and while the Lumra ETB is on the stack, that's when you sacrifice all of your lands to the Zoran Orb. That way you don't get blown out. Because the biggest problem about this deck is getting blown out with a counter spell or anything like that, and then you just have no lands and you're a sitting duck. So make sure the Lumra ETB is on the stack that allows you to bring all your cards or all your land cards back from the graveyard to the battlefield. And then you sacrifice all your lands. You activate Lewin with the Lumra ETB still on the stack, and that's going to generate you a board state of worms equal to the amount of lands you had on the battlefield, essentially. And then all of your lands are going to come back onto the battlefield. Lumra also does just kind of go insane with cards like Lotus Cobra and even Spring Heart and Tuco. You kind of go infinite, mill your entire deck. But that's not the goal of this deck. It is just something that this deck can do whenever it's doing the most powerful thing possible.
Right, and there's just a lot of ways to break a lot of ones with shoot, what was it called?
Any sack outlet with
Yeah.
like Warren Soul Trader.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You make a bunch of treasure, or you could use Skull Clamp to draw your whole entire deck if you even have a deck left, if you're milling your whole entire deck. But
Yeah,
you
dude.
kind of get the point.
Exactly. Even Sephiroth, like you flip him over and you can attack with him and sacrifice like your entire board state to draw that many cards.
Yeah,
So there's again just a lot of powerful stuff Lewin does, and at the end of the day, the ETB on this guy's kind of crazy. I think the ability to just mill 4 cards early in the game, and then you get to pick either a creature or land card to put on top. You can even put Springheart and Antuco
yeah.
on Lewin to keep getting that ETB, and that's not a like that. This is digging 4 cards deep every
Mhm.
ETB, so I think that's also pretty strong. And I'm gonna be using this guy in the 99. I promise.
Yeah, and that's something I really like about at least this set is they kind of did something different with elves. They focused on a little bit of a mill theme, having elves or lands in your graveyard and getting some sort of benefit out of that. Obviously, this is one example of an elf, but I think that's very original compared to just the normal elf ball thing.
I agree. Elf Ball is really boring. And with that being said, we're going to go on to the Elf Ball Commander, which is
Yeah.
High Perfect Morcant. But again, like he was saying, there is this cool mill sub theme now that elves have. So maybe if you lean into that, you could build a little bit more of a cool deck. I will say High Perfect Morcant for CMC.
Yeah.
Whenever High Perfect Morcant or another elf you control enters the battlefield, each opponent blights 1, meaning they put a negative counter on one of the creatures they control. And then you get to tap 3 untapped elves you control to proliferate. So very strong proliferate engine, and it gets rid of our opponent's board state. I think this is going to be amazing in Lathril, and I think Lathril is going to be amazing in the 99 of our High Perfect Morcant deck as well, because the problem Lathril has always had is connecting, right? But once she connects and starts making a board state of elves equal to her power, it's insane from there, and you can drain out your opponents. So I think Gilgari Elves are going to be really cool, but very quickly, I want to get your opinion on this. I think this is going to be like a Turgid card.
You think so? I mean, it makes sense because you're really just wiping the board over and over again, just tapping
Yeah.
those elves and then proliferating. I will say, I still think Lathril probably makes it as the commander, and High Perfect Morcant is in the 99. I think Lathril is definitely more of a finisher because you'll make each opponent lose 10 life and you gain 10 life when you tap those
Mhm.
elves. But there's some certain situations where High Perfect Morcant is an absolute powerhouse when it's on the battlefield. They kind of combo hand in hand, especially if you put a 1/1 counter on Lathril, buffer up, then you tap all your elves you have on the battlefield, proliferate that many times, and then buff up Lathril, swing in with her, make that much more elves. It just kind of goes ham with a ham sandwich, I guess. I was trying to go with that saying, but I was
Yeah,
trying to
no, you're
remember.
right. Infinite with a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
And that I guess that's my point, right? I think if High Perfect Morcant's in the command zone, I think I have a higher chance of like being upset before the game even starts. If
I
that
don't know.
makes not
If I
being
see
upset, but
Lathril, I mean, I don't know.
oh, that's true. They're both so guys. Elf Ball's just gross. I don't know
Yeah.
what to say. Like Elf Ball's gross. I will say, Flourishing Defense not okay in this deck. This says whenever a negative counter is put on a creature, you may create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. So essentially, you're going to wipe the entire board as soon as she causes a negative counter to be put on one of your opponent's creatures, and you're going to be left with a giant board state of elves. So yeah, that's not okay. There is
Yeah.
a two-card infinite combo, so to speak, with this one.
Yeah, and everyone thought of it right away, and it just jumped up like crazy until it was reprinted in the precon.
Oh, dude, I was so happy that all those people got like just absolutely screwed over. Like this is a
Yeah.
dollar card now, and it was shot up to like was it $30 at one point? I think it was.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, all the finance bros, they were like, buy, 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 and then like it got reprinted in the pre-con. Oh, dude, you love to
Yeah.
see it.
And so we are going to move on from number 8 and talk about number 7. This is actually one of my favorite commanders of the entire set. Normally, I don't gravitate towards goblins, but Grub Storied Matriarch is one that I was actually excited to brew around. It's a little bit different compared to your normal goblin deck. Obviously, it is a goblin commander for 2 and a black. It's a goblin warlock with menace, and whenever it enters or transforms into Grub Storied Matriarch, return up to 1 goblin card from your graveyard to your hand, and you may switch it with that ability that all these creatures have into Grub Notorious Auntie, and whenever this attacks, you may blight 1. If you do create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of blighted creature. Oh man, about to sneeze.
Don't do it.
I'm good. Uh, except it has at the beginning of the end step sacrifice this token, and it has that flip ability again when you go to the next first main phase. So this is really cool. I built this in a way of a Goblin Aristocrats, but there are some other people that built it in weird ways.
Listen, okay, I might be some other people here. Okay, so I love the combat step, and I love trying to get as many combat steps as possible. I think we both gravitated to two different parts of the card, which I think
Yeah.
is super fine. The goblin aspect I think was really cool, like you were saying, like Siege Gang Bombardment with Siege Gang Commander and bringing them back, getting ETBs and the whole aristocrat stuff. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
What I instantly saw was Kiki Jiki on the backside.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put a negative counter on Port Razor. Port Razor deals combat damage, giving us another combat step. And then I'm trying to put another negative counter on Port Razor and just make an entire board state of Port Razors to kill everybody.
And
That deck has not
you're
been
putting
made
the
yet.
-1/-1 counter on the token copy of the Port Razor.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah,
clarify
you
that,
never run
yeah.
out. Yeah. You never run out. Because it's a combat damage trigger. I think they could have balanced this card by saying like non-token, but
Right.
the fact that you can blight on anything, including the token copies you make, it makes cards like Port Razor and Bloodthirster insane. I guess I should read them. Port Razor says whenever Port Razor deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control after this phase. There is an additional combat phase. So as it also is limited to only attacking one player per turn. But the fact is, you never run out of Port Razors because you're always generating more of them with your Grub. So it's kind of just absurd. And then Bloodthirster does something very, very similar. Actually, it does pretty much the exact same thing,
Right.
except for it only untaps itself.
Mhm.
But
Which still gets you
on,
there if it's flying and everything, trampling over everything.
yeah, yeah, it still gets you there. And what I think is kind of busted about this is the fact that usually Bloodthirster is kind of like balanced by the fact that you need a haste enabler.
Yeah.
You really don't even need a haste enabler here
No.
because you can just like put it on the original, the token copy as haste, and then you can just go off from there.
Yeah, no, that's what's really cool about Grub. There's a lot of ways to brew around it. I didn't really go the extra combat route, which probably I should. I think that would be really incentivized.
I
I
mean,
went
well,
with
it's
more of the Goblin
gross.
Aristocrats instead of just going wide with goblins, swinging with them. I went with more sacrificing them for like Blood Artist triggers. I mean, you have like Sling Gang Lieutenant, which you could sacrifice a goblin, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. You could sacrifice that token before it leaves the battlefield. Also, I thought about this. A lot of goblins actually do have ETBs, making more goblins on the battlefield. I went with that side of like attacking with Grub and copying like a Siege Gang commander, where when it enters, you make 3/1/1 red goblin creature tokens, and then you just keep repeating that process, and then use cards to sacrifice, like for Skull Clamp and drawing more cards. I know I mentioned Skull Clamp beforehand. There's
So
stuff
good.
like that that kind of makes it work as more than just a go wide goblin deck. It focuses on a little bit of sacrifice, which I like. Plus, Rakdos is just cool.
I agree. I will say though, if one deck has more replayable value, it's gonna be the one that's like the cool goblin deck
Yeah,
that does cool goblin stuff. The Port Raiser thing and the Bloodthirster thing, it's cool the first couple times you do it, but then you end up throwing the deck away because it does the same thing every single time.
right.
But I like building around cool interactions like that, so I'm gonna send it
Oh no,
anyway. But
absolutely do
I
it.
I do think combo decks they do have that thing where people just get bored of them because they
Yeah,
do the thing. Well, some people are degenerates and they love that. They
they
just
just
love
love
that
doing it
shit.
over and over again.
Yeah, we're gonna send it back. Moving on though. The next one is Brigid. Brigid is essentially a guy's cradle in the command zone. She enters the battlefield, and then you get to create a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. And at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay 1 green, and if you do, you transform her. And then she has an ability. You get to tap her, and you can add either X green or X white to your mana pool, where X is the number of creatures you control. So yeah, just straight up guy's cradle on a card, and that's just not okay in my. Well, it's not. I think it's busted. I think it's absurd. What do you think?
I really like it. I think it's kind of underrated. A lot of people are not really high on this card. I still think it's really good. It comes to the battlefield with a body. So 2 cards in one almost. I mean, I should say 2 bodies in one almost, but it comes on the backside without summoning sickness because you're transforming it. You're not transforming and exiling, so you can just tap it for mana right away. And the fact that it taps for also white makes it not better than Gaia's Cradle. Nothing's really as good as Gaia's Cradle because it's a
No.
land. But having a commander that could produce a ton of mana leads to a lot of different combo shenanigans, like Staff of Domination. If you have like enough creatures on the battlefield, you could tap Staff of Domination and untap it all over again to get near infinite mana, and then with that, you just draw your whole entire deck and then do everything you want to do with it. So there's a lot of crazy cool combos you can do.
100%. You can even do Emil combos. Emil is just 3 mana
Yeah.
blink a creature, right? So if you're blinking something like a Village Bellringer or a Hydrax Tower Scout that allows you to untap a creature, as long as you get like 4 mana off of Brigid, you get infinite mana. Like it's not hard to go infinite with Gaia's Cradle, and I think people are going to rush to the most degenerate thing because even like the most fair version of this deck, I think, is pretty absurd.
Yeah, no, it kind of reminds me of Rafellos, the one where it taps for the amount of forest you have. I mean, that one's
Oh yeah,
banned
yeah,
for a
yeah.
reason.
Yeah, that one's banned.
That one's
Yeah,
banned for a
straight up
reason,
banned.
and I mean, obviously that one's better than this one. I'm not saying it isn't, but Brigid kind of gives me that vibe a little bit because the more creatures you have on the battlefield, the more you're just going to be tapping for mana, and then you could just do degenerate things like getting infinite mana combos and then dump it into like a finale of devastation and win the game from there. There's just a lot of ways that you could just get ahead of your opponents just for having more creatures on the battlefield, tapping for more mana, and then just going from there.
Yeah, there's also no shortage of ways to draw cards whenever you cast a creature spell or whenever
Right.
a creature enters the battlefield. So your card advantage is going to be the bottleneck on this deck, but I mean, saying that is kind of like, I don't know, can we find green spells that draw cards whenever you cast
Right.
creature spells? Yeah, so it's like I think this deck's going to be absurd, sorry, and I think that's why we put it both at number 6. You
No,
want
I
to kick
agree.
us
And
off
I
with
think
me?
that's a good placement for it with Brigid. I agree. And then, so next up, we are going to go at number 5, and we're going to talk about Abigale Eloquent first year. And so this is for 2 black or white, flying first strike and lifelink. And when it enters, up to one other target creature loses all abilities, put a flying counter, a first strike counter, and a lifelink counter on that creature. So this is just straight up Oko's ability of elking somebody's creature on the battlefield, somebody's commander that's super problematic. I mean, it still could go in for commander damage with that flying counter, lifelink counter, and first strike counter, but the upside is definitely there because there's a lot more commanders like Brigid that are just haymakers.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of times this is just better than outright removing a commander. Like a lot of players have an issue with Yoriko, right? How do we deal with it?
I
We
do.
kill it and then it's just going to ninjutsu right back out. Well, if we just take away all its abilities, it's not dead. They can't recast it. And as long as your opponents have kind of the same like, hey, let's just not block it attitude, not only does that kind of just make it to where they're killing each other faster because they're not blocking creatures and they're just
Yep.
taking it straight to the face. Additionally, they're probably not going to attack you because you're gaining a ton of life because the other part of this deck wants to take away abilities like Phyrexian Soul Gorger, turn it into a vanilla creature that's just an 8/8 that has flying, vigilance, and lifelink. So now you have a massive creature that they can't really attack into, and then if they do, you're just going to gain all the life back. So I think this is insane as a blink commander, and the flexibility is just absurd.
Yeah, and you don't have to just blink her. There's also other blink targets, which makes it more versatile than a lot of people realize. Obviously, we talked about a lot of haymakers previously. What makes this stand out differently compared to all the other commanders that we talked about previously, because it is at number 5. What I think makes this very good is the fact that everyone says you're not running enough removal. That argument
Yeah.
alone happens so much. And if you have removal on the command zone, technically removal, technically not removal, and if you're blinking it constantly, it can really turn the game in your favor. It's technically not a haymaker by giving you card advantage or even like putting lands on the battlefield, but it's removing big problematic things.
I agree. And the fact that it's so abusable in white and black even because reanimation's just another way to say blink with extra steps, right?
Right.
Because like a Sun Titan in this deck's actually kind of insane.
Yeah.
Because Sun Titan like reanimates on attack. So you can easily just sacrifice Abigale, attack with Sun Titan, boom, Abigale enters again. There's just no shortage of or ways in Orzovs to reanimate or just straight up um blink your commander. And then I do have to shout out my favorite card in this deck. It's Anti-Causal Vestige. Pretty sure I'm saying that right. It's a 6 CMC creature Eldrazi that has Warp 4, and it says when this creature leaves the battlefield, you draw a card, then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield. So this is one of those cards you can warp out, instantly blink it, and then you're just cheating creatures into play. I think this is my new favorite blink target, and I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Just the fact that you're just cheating permanence into play just makes it absolutely ridiculous. And I like how there's not necessarily a cap. A lot of people are comparing this to Solemn Simulacrum for that warp ability, which I
Okay.
guess no, it's not that. It's a lot better because the ceiling is you could just go up depending on how much land you have. So it's a lot better than a lot of people are realizing. And it's a pretty budget card too, only like at $1.47.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to be putting this in more of my decks, especially my blink decks
Yeah.
that struggle with doing the I won't say they struggle with getting a lot of value, but I will say they kind of can struggle with getting that explosive turn where you're putting like 8 drops onto the battlefield or 6 drops onto the battlefield twice in a turn. This kind of just does that for you. So
Right.
again, I think Abigale does deserve the number 5 spot just because of the flexibility. And then Orzov, Reanimation, or Blink are insane.
Yeah.
Then when you pair that with a Power Matter strategy, and you're blinking like a Ruthless Technomancer to sacrifice a Phyrexian Soul Gorger to get 8 treasure tokens, or
Yeah.
a Disciple of Bolas to draw 8 cards, it just kind of is insane.
Yeah, and you mentioned reanimation. I thought of Zoo Ifnit, the one that I showed you like before this
Oh yeah, yeah,
video.
yeah.
Like just tapping a return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a skeleton in addition to its other types, and it has no abilities. You could just put Abigail's abilities of flying, lifelink, and first strike onto that vanilla creature, or you could sacrifice it over and over again to cards like what he mentioned. So Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility. At first, when I saw this, I'm like, okay, it seems more like a actual like I shouldn't say like a standard modern card, but it definitely felt more like that vibe. But the more you
Yeah.
talked about it with me, the more I kind of rooted around it myself, the more it makes sense as a commander by itself.
I agree, dude. Honestly, when I saw this commander, I was like, this has to be the most boring commander of the set.
Oh,
And
man.
then I actually saw gameplay footage of it, and I was like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I have to build this. I have
Right.
to build this. It's cool.
Well, just to turning your vanillas that have really bad stat, like I should say bad stats. They have great stats like Phyrexian Soul Gorger. If you just take off that communal upkeep and give it all those abilities, it's an upside, but it can be a downside for your opponents too. There's a lot of versatility here.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. I'm also a fan on Eirdu. I think Eirdu is going to be number fun. I think it earns its spot. A lot of people are already getting bored with the combo version, but like you
Yeah.
were talking about, I think like what you were saying is a way cooler version and still kind of absurd.
I actually played against this at FNM the other week where Eirdu was on the battlefield. All they had to do was play a creature that had an enters the battlefield trigger, putting a couple of creature tokens on the battlefield. They just tap those right away, cast more creature spells, tap it right away, add more creature spells, and of course they have those abilities of drawing cards when creatures enter. And it just kind of got out of hand. They had like 10 creatures on the battlefield, and then look at me. I went to the next turn and I didn't have any removal on Eirdu, and then he flipped Eirdu, and then, oh, hey, let's just sacrifice all those creatures and then have them re enter the battlefield with a persist. And then sacrifice them again, and then with like blood artist triggers, it's a nightmare to deal with. Obviously, that's more I shouldn't be. I shouldn't say it's combo, but obviously, there's a lot of combos with persist. It's definitely a way to win without like infinite comboing out.
I agree. The first thing I thought of whenever you said that, and I'm sorry, but Heir Apparent, a 2 CMC creature that says when this creature enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens equal to the number of other creatures you control named Heir Apparent. So it also says you can have any number of the Heir Apparents in your deck. So kind of absurd, kind of like one of those relentless rat things. But the thing is, with what he was saying about like, you just get to convoke all of these out and then flip it, and then when you flip it and you're sacrificing it to whatever effect you have, like your Ashnod's Altar, and you're triggering your Artist triggers, they're gonna come back and they're gonna do the ETB thing again. So
But
I
it's going to be
think,
multiplied too, like crazy, because they all enter at the same time. Like if you have like five heir apparents, they're all going to trigger all at the same time, and you make like what, five each or like each other.
yeah, each other, so you'll make like four
Yeah,
hairs per.
I
It's
I always need
insane.
to make sure I keep track of that wording. Each other.
Yeah, each other gets you every time, bro.
Yeah, no, seriously. I also thought of the Nazgul because I mean it's pretty much entering the battlefield. The ring tempts you, and when the ring tempts you, you put a +1/+1 counter on the wraith, and so look at that with Eirdu. If you have it on the backside with Isalu, they have persist. So when you sacrifice that Nazgul, they will re-enter the battlefield, and you negate that -1/-1 counter, and they just stay the same. And of course, the more Nazgul you have on the battlefield, the more they're going to buff each other up. It's basically a one card combo with a sacrifice outlet or even like a blood earth effect. So, I mean, that's more of the yeah, I'm gonna combo
Infinite
out and win. Yeah,
ETBs. Yeah, infinite ETBs, infinite die triggers.
exactly.
That's what people were saying they're sick of, but I think people are going to be sick of the heir apparent build too.
Yeah, I actually never heard of the heir apparent. Have people actually been building around that, or
I have no idea, but when you like described what that guy was doing, I was like, heir apparent seems
well,
disgusting.
he didn't play heir apparent. He just played a lot of creatures that had just ETB, make more creatures, and
Oh,
then just
got
kept
you.
doing that over and over again.
I think heir apparent might be the best version of that though, of that deck.
Since you described it that way, I completely agree because they're just gonna make more copies when they die and re-enter.
Oh, bro, that's gonna be so annoying to deal with.
Did
Holy.
we just give people that idea, or was it already
Listen,
online?
cut it, cut it. It's probably already there. I guarantee you, if I look up this commander, let's see, Eirdu, Carrier of Dawn. I doubt we figured
This is
something
real
out through
time,
the
by the way.
internet.
We're actually we don't know. We just kind of came up with a hair parent before this, and it just sounds disgusting.
Yeah, no, I doubt we figured out something that the internet has not already. Let's
Yeah,
see.
especially
Let's go
because Heir
to.
Apparent, I mean, I should say Isilu and Eirdu have been spoiled for a long time, even way before Lorwyn.
I'm in high synergy cards. It's not here yet. We're in creatures. Um,
Are we solid?
you know what? On creatures on EDH Hair Apparent is not in the top.
All right.
It's
Well,
not. It's not on EDH. We might have figured something out.
we might have
I
figured
bet
something
people have
out
already.
before the internet did. That's something.
Nah, dude. There's someone sleeved. They've got their Eirdu Hair Apparent deck, and they're like, "You guys are
They
idiots."
have like the full foiled out Heir Apparents and ready to go.
Yeah, they've been doing it the whole time. Yeah, no, that's crazy, bro. Oh shoot, I lost my what is next? Oh, next up is Anti-Ul. You guys knew it was gross. And Anti-Ul, full disclosure, the wording on this one was a little bit confusing whenever I first read the card, but the whenever one or more negative counters are put on a creature, draw a card. If you control that creature, if you don't control that creature, its controller loses one life. The one or more aspect kind of tripped me up. But what that means is if we put 10 counters on one creature, we're going to basically drain our opponents once. But if we put 10 counters on 10 separate creatures, we're draining them for straight up 10.
Yeah.
So in the as or in the context of Cornifex Demon, a creature that puts a negative counter on every single creature on the board, we will draw a card for every single creature we have on our side of the battlefield, and we will drain our opponents for every single creature they have on their side. So the casual aspect of this is super strong and something I didn't realize. And then something everybody realized, I think, instantly was persist just draws your entire deck.
So I'm just making sure and clarifying. I was kind of thinking like, yeah, that second part works with that, but the first part, is it only you draw one card when you put like count -1/-1 counters on all your creatures?
No, dude, it's whenever one or more negative counters are put on a creature, draw a card if you control that creature.
Oh, if you control
So
that creature, okay.
so basically, like if we have 10 creatures on our board, we'll draw 10 cards, and if they have 10 creatures on their board, they'll get drained 10.
Again, one or more really trips us up. It trips so
Dude,
many
yeah,
people
one
up.
or more is like because the thing is, if they like change that sentence up a little bit, it works exactly like how we described. But yeah, no, it's just insane. You can drain out entire board states with
Scoot
Cornifex Demon.
Swarm.
Yeah, Scoot Swarm's dead. We don't like the Scoot Swarm player, so
Yeah.
that's solid.
I know I have a really big vendetta against him. I don't know if you do as much, but I just do.
No, I do. If you look at any of my decks, you won't find Scoot Swarm and
No.
to speak. Oh wait, okay, sorry. I put Scoot Swarm in one deck, and it is the Saltai Shapeshifter deck. You remember that guy? I forget his name.
Oh.
So basically, you pay one and he becomes a copy of a creature, except it's a 7/5. So what you
Oh,
do is
yeah.
you make him a copy of Scoot Swarm, drop a land, and boom, you've got a 7/5 Scoot Swarm.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Volrath?
Valoroth? Valoroth?
Volrath? I don't know.
Volrath. Something.
Yeah.
There's a V in there. Anyway, you make 7/5 Scoot Swarms with that deck. It's kind of absurd, but I think Scoot Swarm was already absurd. You know, it didn't need
Yeah.
Valoroth's help. But yeah, no, just to go over the persist thing real quick. Basically, what happens is a creature dies, it enters with a negative counter. All you have to do is ensure that you have something like a Grumgully on the battlefield. There's no shortage of ways to make sure that your creatures enter with +1/+1 counters. And then basically, you're gonna have a persist creature get negated by the +1 counter, and then there's just no counters on the creature, but you still get the card advantage from
Mm-hmm.
Anti-Ul. Murderous Redcap is the best version because it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So you just deal that damage equal to itself. So you deal 2 damage to itself, it dies, it comes back. And you can do that an infinite amount of times, draw your entire deck until you find something like a Goblin Bombardment to kill a table.
Right, no, exactly. And that's a pretty clean and simple way of playing Auntie Ul. What's really nice about her in a general sense is the fact that she's card advantage, but she's also a way to win against your opponents too. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Obviously, it's very specific towards -1/-1 counters. It's kind of like what people wanted out of Scarab God and Hepatra all in one. And it's just doing everything -1/-1 counters is doing. So it's basically the de facto go-to.
I agree. The thing about these persist combos too is the redundancy, right? You could have five different versions of Grumgully, you could have five different versions of Murderous Redcap, and then you just need a Sack Outlet and Jund.
Mhm.
Like it's not hard, which I think that's why people aren't building it this way. I'm still not sure if I'm gonna build this commander besides the precon upgrade,
Right.
but if I did, I would definitely focus on Undying. The reason I like Undying instead of Persist is because Persist just goes infinite, but with Undying, you have to you then get a creature where you can kill with your own negative counters that doesn't go infinite, if that makes sense.
Mm.
It's just something you can kill over and over again, but you need a way to put the negative counter on it.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. And so again, there's a lot of ways to kind of just break Auntie Ul. It's just kind of given with Persist in general. But we are going to move
Gross.
on to Maralen Fey Ascendant. And I like this originally because it's finally a Sultai elf. We didn't really get Sultai elves before. I was thinking of combining like the Lord of the Rings elves that were in Simic and also just the Golgari elves that you see like with Lathril all together. But that's not really the case. Most people are just going combo heavy with this. This has flying, and whenever it or another elf or fairy enters the battlefield, exile the top two cards of your target opponent's library. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of elves or fairies you control among cards exiled with Maralen this turn without paying their mana cost and as a 4/5 body. And so this is pretty much just theft. I don't think people are necessarily going to build elves around this. This is definitely just more of a combo commander.
I think so. I built elves, but which the combo's so strong. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could just put Displacer Kitten in this deck. You could put Food Chain in the deck, and then once you get infinite ETBs or near infinite ETBs with Displacer Kitten, you can kind of just end up casting the majority of your
Yeah.
opponent's deck. And then the only downside to playing her as your commander is you do need to ensure you have a decent amount of elves or fairies on the battlefield. But honestly, with the average mana curve of mostly everybody's deck, as excluding those Timmy players, you're probably going to end up at like three, right?
Right.
So if you have like three elves on the battlefield, you can probably cast the majority of, I know, my decks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not hard to get that. And then I will say some of the best strategies in this deck are using High Fate Trickster, a fairy that gives all your spells flash, and then Seedborn Muse, you're untapping all your elves, and then you can flash in your elves and fairies on your opponent's turn, and then you even get to cast your opponent creature spells from exile as well, since the timing restriction doesn't apply to you anymore since they have flash. So there's a lot of very busted things you can do with this commander, and then at the highest power, you just have a combo food chain deck or a combo kitten deck that's pretty strong.
Right. And normally in situations, you're just playing your mana dorks. A lot of elves are just mana dorks in general, where you're just playing the Llanowar elves. You play those like little one drops, and you're just going to be triggering Morrowind too. I know I'm saying that name completely wrong, but you kind of get the point. This is a really strong commander just based off of what it's doing. Theft. I also thought, I mean, when I was building this deck, I was thinking of Masquid Nexus because if you're casting your opponent's creatures, they go on your side of the battlefield with the ETB and they become a elf or a fairy. It kind of made sense to me. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it was just something I thought about when brewing it.
Yeah, it's just a solid way to keep the mill going or exiling going. So
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. I almost put the Ulamog in this deck that like gets buffed equal to like the cards in
Oh
exile.
shoot! Yeah, I mean
Because
it
it's like
works.
elf ball, right? I didn't. It's in the sideboard. It's safe. We're all safe, right? But I was really close to putting that Ulamog in there that has Annihilator equal to the counters.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, but we did. I chickened out. I was like, it's already gross. We're good. We're
Right.
good. But yeah, we'll go on to number one now. And kids, can you guess it? It's Ashling, the
Yep.
Limitless. And we did have a conversation before this podcast. I do think Ashling, along with Marlin and Auntie Ul, I think the gap between them is very, very small. It is very, very small. Like you could probably take this list and like move around the top three any way you want, and I probably wouldn't disagree with you.
Mhm.
I do think that Ashling, Moralen, and Auntie Ul are definitely the strongest we've gotten
Yeah.
from the set. But if you want to say that like you like Moralen or Auntie Ul a little bit better than Ashling, you're gonna have no arguments from me. I
Right.
think they're that close.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I think what separates Ashling compared to those other two, at least the reason why kind of put it above the rest is because it is 5 colors. It's doing the
Hmm.
elemental thing, but doing it really well. And I would say probably a little too efficiently. Just the fact that
I
it
agree.
is like, yeah, it's 5 color, but technically only you have to pay 2 in a red. It makes it a little bit more degenerate. If it had a little bit more restricted mana cost, we'd be talking, but I think this is a little bit of a mistake of a card. Not gonna lie, I think it's just a little too powerful because it's just gonna be the de facto go-to elemental commander. I don't think any other elementals kind of compare to it.
I agree. I think I'll read it real quick, but it's a legendary creature. Elemental spells you cast from your hand have evoke 4, and then additionally, first of all, if this commander just said elemental
Yeah,
creatures you cast have evoke 4, and then it was a 5 CMC Horde of Nations, that's strong.
yeah,
But also, it says whenever you sacrifice a non-token elemental creature token that's a or create a token that's a copy of it, it gains haste until end of turn, and then you can spend Wooburg to keep that elemental token around. I'm gonna be honest, any efforts spent on keeping these elemental tokens around is wasted just because of how busted this commander is. And I agree with you. Like, I think it instantly hits that Corval, that Marnia's
yeah.
Calguar, that limbo that we talk about, the very powerful commanders that you need to play at your higher power tables, just because giving like an exclamation evoke 4 and then getting triple mana for an entire turn wins games.
Right. And we haven't even got to the best parts about it yet, but like even cost reducers like Animar or even Teamer Battlecrier, even though Teamer Battlecrier isn't an elemental and Animar is, both of these will reduce the mana cost of all your elementals. And then, of course, if you put more elementals on the battlefield, the lower that evoke cost is going to be, potentially just to 0. It's just stupid. I mean, that's not even the combo part. That's just straight up synergy with the card. And the fact that you get double ETBs, double leaves, battlefield triggers, just makes this extremely powerful because so many elementals themselves have those abilities.
Exactly. Dude, even like so Mold Drifter drawing 4 cards is stupid, right?
Yeah,
Like 4 cards Mold Drifter is insane. And then the combos are Gravesifter and Grave Warden of Marasa. Both of these return a creature card or a card from your graveyard or creature cards of chosen types from the graveyard. So if you're able to make your elementals free, you get to evoke out Gravesifter or Green Warden for free. They die, and then the token copy returns them back to your hand. You now have an infinite board state of hasty either Green Wardens or Gravesifters. You could also pair this with Food Chain because you can sacrifice the token copy to basically cast your entire hand as long as you're sacrificing the right ones. And it also does just go infinite with Gravesifter and Green Warden as well, since you can generate infinite mana that way.
right, exactly. No, there's too many ways to bust Ashling. It's even in the precon, believe it or not, that you could just bust Ashling in half with like Yarok. You have Omnath. Both versions actually work with her, and also like what's it called, Risen Reef. All
Mm-hmm.
those kind of make a non-deterministic combo, especially with like Omnath, uh, the uh, the red green one, where you just make infinite amount of them, and then they all die at the end step, and then you just blast everybody in the face with 3 damage per dies. It's just a little too silly how out of hand this deck can get, and we barely even just scratched the surface. We only just mainly talked about win cons, but even little simple just strategies here and there, like putting the Cavaliers in the deck, getting that much value out of the ETBs, leaves triggers, is just a little bit too pushed for me. And maybe they wanted to push elementals. I don't know.
I'm here for it because I love elementals, but I would only play this versus a pod that was like ready for it and
Right.
okay with how absurd it is. If you don't remove Ashling ASAP, you're probably losing the game. But I think in a perfect world, you get Animar on the battlefield, you get Animar with 4 counters, you're casting Ashling for 1 red.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like even same with Teamer Battlecrier. Ashling's 1 red now because you're reducing the cost. So it's not okay. Even Ashnod's Altar does the thing
Yeah.
because sacrificing 2 creatures nets 4 mana and you can keep evoking out more creatures. There's a limitless amount of ways to break this commander. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that we have a 5 color, personally, if I were to fix this
Oh yeah.
commander, I would make it maybe 3 color, maybe in teamer color combination. that still wouldn't do anything to help it really because it'd still be kind of busted because you still have all those teamer color combination combos. But I don't know. It's just 5 color. All in that is just pretty powerful.
Can I float? Can I float something
All right, let's hear it.
your way? All right, I want to make another Ashling deck, but it's gonna be like the Kindred kind of style. I want to make an Ashling Eldrazi deck, and then we're going to use no, hear me out. We're using cards like Forced Adaptation, and now our Eldrazi's are elementals, and you can get the cast triggers of the Eldrazi's for 4 mana.
Yeah, but then you won't get the re-enters like when
Oh,
I
we
make a
don't care
token.
about that.
I know,
We
I
want
know. I'm
cat.
just clarifying that for some people that might put out comments like you don't get that cast trigger again.
Yeah, no, I just want the cast trigger, bro. Like even like you could kind of do like a blink style too, because like if you blink it after you cast it, like it stays.
Yeah.
Like because you don't in response to the evoke, you can blink stuff. So I'm toying with it. I think I'm gonna make, but I think I'm gonna do what you said. I think I'm gonna make it a teamer list.
Yeah, because you don't really need to pay the
You
Wurberg
don't,
mana. So if you wanted to
nah,
make it
dude.
even mono red, you could.
You could
I
make a
mean,
mono red deck with Ashling. You do not need so like I'm gonna make a Teamer Eldrazi list, I think, and then of course Animar and Teamer Battle Carrier Crier, along with like Nyx Bloom Ancient are gonna be in there.
well, I can't wait to not see that deck. So
Yeah, it's like well, I'm gonna forget you said that right now, actually,
right.
dude. Even oh, dude, Food Chain with Eldrazi's.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what you do
just
with the
get the
tokens.
casts going over and over again.
Yeah, that's what you do with the tokens right there, bud.
There you go. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Again, that's why we're at number one here because even though it's very narrow towards, I guess, elementals and Eldrazi for some reason, it's
Listen. Okay. It's just an idea.
it's an idea. All right. Even though it's very narrow to elementals, it's doing it at such an efficient rate where it kind of goes to like the Dragon status of like everything below Dragon is not as good as Dragon. I mean, I
Right.
know there's like other Miriams that are like less colors, but people when they think of dragons, they think of Dragon already to the top. And I feel like that's what's going to happen to elementals. Ashling the Limitless is going to be at the top of everybody's mind no matter what.
Yeah, no, I think this will quickly become a commander that people don't want to play against, and it's a precon commander.
Yeah, we've had some of those for sure.
We've had, yeah, Marnius Calgar, I think, is one of them too.
Yeah, no, Matt
When,
Marnius is
when's the
there. There's also
when's the last time
Corvold.
you
Corvold was
Corvold was
technically
a precon?
yeah. Well, technically it was like a brawl precon, but
Yeah,
it was weird.
yeah, no, that whole set was weird. Like, it's
Yeah,
like let's make brawl precons. No one played brawl.
no,
They tried to make it like a paper thing, and they just gave up on that
no. I
instantly.
think it's because Wizards didn't really have control of Commander at that time, so they just tried to make their own format.
Ah, they
So
made precons before that though.
I yeah, they did, but they technically didn't own Commander because of the Commander
Yeah.
Rules Committee. But they have control of what they say on Brawl because it's their own format. I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Maybe they were trying to make their own format more popular
Yeah,
than
they
Commander.
put
Oh,
Planeswalkers
got
as
you.
commanders in there technically too that you could play in
Yeah.
Brawl, which there's a reason why we play Commander and not Brawl.
Yeah, 100%. What was that one? Oathbreaker? Oathbreaker, is that still around?
That's the one with Planeswalker Commander and like a
A
spell.
signature spell? Yeah.
I like that idea honestly, but
I'm playing Narset Windfall.
there's that Windfall. Oh, I'm playing Ren and Six and crop rotation. What are you talking about?
I like it. I like it.
All right, well, that is going to do
What
it
is.
for us, guys. Sorry about that little rant at the end. We just
Oh,
like
yeah,
talking.
yeah, yeah.
It's
My
just
bad,
all
my
fun
bad.
for us. And these are the commanders we believe from 10 to 1 are the best. Obviously, there was other commanders. Let us know down below in the comments. And also argue with us if you want to see which one is actually the best commander. We love to hear your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. We read each and every individual one. Even though we might not get to them, we do read them.
Yeah, let me know why I'm wrong. I'm sure there's valid reasons to be
Probably with the
fair.
Eldrazi. I'll tell you right away why
Listen,
that's wrong.
listen. The Eldrazi's happening and you can't stop it.